We are the Guinea Pig Collective. All will be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
How you can imagine.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome back to another Toys from the Past. So on today's Toys from the Past, we will be talking about the 1979 through 1980 series of figures based on the movie The Black Hole. These were produced by Mego, and after having missed the boat on the Star Wars action figure line, Mego was grabbing up as many movie and television rights as it could. Now, sci-fi was red hot at the time with the success of Star Wars, so Mego obviously cashed in on going for these different sci-fi lines. Unfortunately for Mego, the movie did not do as well as hoped, and nor did these toys. The robots were pretty cool, but compared to Star Wars, which was red hot at the time, it just was not in competition. So in 1979, Disney completed the 2-year production of The Black Hole. The plot was pretty good. The explorer craft, the USS Palomino, is returning to Earth after a fruitless 18-month search for extraterrestrial life when the crew comes upon a supposedly lost ship, the magnificent USS Cygnus, hovering near a black hole. The ship is controlled by Dr. Hans Reinhardt and his monstrous robot companion, Maximilian. But the initial awe that the Palomino crew feel for the ship and its resistance to the power of the black hole turn to horror as they uncover Reinhardt's plans, which involve turning his former crewmates into robots and flying through a black hole. And while the plot of the movie was not horrible and it was actually a decent movie overall, it just was not good enough to capture the attention of everybody who had already had their eyes glazed over by the success of Star Wars. Of course, nobody could have predicted how badly this movie would have failed in the box office or the toy line subsequently as well, but these things happen. Now, Mego, being known for making the much larger 8-inch and 12-inch figures, took a different approach when it came to these movie figures after seeing the success that Kenner had with the Star Wars action figure line. They, instead of their traditional 8-inch and 12-inch figures, opted to go with the 3 3/4 action figure, and later on they did wind up doing a 12-inch and also an 8-inch magnetic series as well. Now the original 3 3/4 action figure line consisted of Captain Holland, Hans Reinhardt, Harry Booth, Alex Durant, Maximilian, Vincent, Kate McCraw, and Charles Pizer. And when the second series was released, it is actually a lot harder to find because only the Robot Century was marketed in the United States. The other three, Star, Humanoid, and Old Bob, were only sold in Italy and a limited number sold in Canada. Mego also had released one vehicle, the Laser Scope Fighter, which was meant to be used with the 3 3/4 inch figures. Now, it is identical to the Buck Rogers Laser Scope Fighter with the exception of the black hole sticker. Another example of label swapping, which was pretty much the norm back then when they couldn't create or find time to create new product lines. They would just label swap to be able to put stuff on the store shelves. Now, the 3 exclusives that were only released in Italy and Canada were actually Sears exclusives, which create a even more rare set of circumstances to be able to find these figures. And as far as the 8-inch line, well, this is one of the things that actually gets kind of confusing. Now, some people will claim that it's an 8-inch line, other people will claim it's a 6-inch line. Either way, they were magnetic figures and they borrowed the idea from the Micronauts line, which of course was an import from Takara that was the Microman series of figures. Obviously, since Takara had no real success trying to sell their Japanese toy lines. In America, they had actually tapped the shoulder of Mego to be able to produce these figures for them. It was basically a licensing off of the idea, the same way Takara and Hasbro have done over many times throughout the years. Now, the line was extremely short. It only consisted of 3 larger magnetic figures, and they were all produced in Italy by Gig Toys. Now, unfortunately, since these were only produced in Italy, being able to get your hands on one, and especially in good condition and in its original box, is going to be quite difficult. And of course, when it comes to Mego, their bread and butter has always been their 12-inch action figure line. So with that in mind, of course, they were going to have to create a 12-inch action figure line for the Black Hole as well. Now, these figures actually, just like any other Mego figures, bear a fairly good resemblance to the characters that they were portraying. Now, where many collectors seem to think that they failed in this endeavor was the fact that they only made 6 figures for this 12-inch line, and none of them were the robots who were considered by most, if not all, to be the main stars of this film. Vincent was one of the most popular characters right alongside Maximilian. Unfortunately, the only characters that even came close to the 12-inch size that were produced were the 8-inch or 6-inch, depending on who you're listening to, that were produced in Italy and also sold in Canada. So, the characters and figures that were included in their 12-inch line consisted of the following: Charles Pizer, Captain Dan Holland, Dr. Alex Durant, Kate McRae, Dr. Hans Reinhardt, and Harry Booth. And while Mego had great success with their 12-inch line, it really was their 8-inch line that really is what they became known for and what they sold the most of. What you do have to take into consideration is coming off the success that the G.I. Joe line had previously with 12-inch figures, plus Star Wars figures that were coming out at the time that were also 12-inch. This was probably the direction they took because the movie franchises were all going for that 12-inch figure line, at least in the way of the larger collectible figures. Now, I do recall as a child having not only the Vincent figure, but I actually had a Bob figure as well. Now, whatever happened to either one of them, well, that's left up to speculation. It could still be in storage over my father's house, or it could be lost to the ravages of time. Who knows? Now, as far as some of the other figures, whether or not I had any of the other ones, I really don't recall having them. I might have, because a lot of the other characters just seem very throwaway to me after the robots. Vincent, Bob, and Maximilian. I always wanted to have that Maximilian figure. Unfortunately, I never got it. C'est la vie. And in more modern times, we actually get a new Black Hole set of figures by way of Diamond Selects. Anyway, guys, that's all I have on this one. Do you remember these toys? Have you ever heard of these toys? Did you have some of these toys? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And of course, as always, if you've enjoyed what you heard and what you've seen, go ahead and destroy that like button for me. And if you are new to the channel, welcome. I am glad that you are here. I hope that you've had a good time, and I hope that you will consider subscribing to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. I will try to get out content as often as I can, barring the cooperation of my internet, which just has not been happening lately, and this is why a lot of my content has been very sporadic. I can only do what I can within the confinements of my pretty fucking terrible internet provider. Hopefully this situation improves, but I am expecting it's going to last for quite some time. Anyway, I will catch you all next time. Later, y'all.